Welcome back. So I miss buttons and knobs. I I've been seeing this trend at my age. I have I guess you could say, the privilege of having been able to see things for a long period of time and how things change. And I'm noticing this trend in moving us away as a race, as people, from reality. We used to put our hands on things. That's the buttons and knobs, right? And then, and then we moved to the keyboard, which, well, to me seems a little bit of a disconnect from reality. And now an awful lot, and then we've got the joystick, which further removes us away from reality, I think. And now there's an awful lot of swiping going on, where it's minimal physical effort, and you just swipe to do things on your phone or on your computer or your tablet, your whatever. And there's less physical interaction. And I think this physical interaction is really, really important. Like, I'm a writer, and I always feel the pull to write in terms of with a pencil and paper, and I do a lot of that. Actually, I do a lot of that. My books I write usually just most of the time I spend writing longhand. On paper, in notebooks, in spiral-bound notebooks, and I feel that there's a process going on there that's just more creative and more comfortable. It works well for me, and I think it probably works better for human beings, rather than using the word processor. Eventually, I get to the word processor. I guess I have to in today's world, but an enormous amount of my writing is done longhand. And I realize that's not efficient. That takes more time. But the time isn't the important thing. The connection, the flow of ideas and thought is more important to me. And I think better. I think, I trend towards overload of information. It probably isn't good. The longhand writing and long-form reading, I think, promotes long-form thinking in our heads, and we're shifting away from that. We're shifting, it's more and more information and shorter bites. We're moving from subject to subject quicker and quicker and quicker. We see that with videos, we see that with writing, we see that with articles, and I think this is all trending in a bad direction. And let's get back to buttons and knobs. So we had buttons and knobs where you had the tactile sensation of being in touch with reality, and you touch things. And then we moved to the keyboard, which separates us on a level from reality. And then we moved to, the joystick, and then we moved to, now we're swiping, and less physical reality. And now all the rage is, implants in our brains. That's a big thing that they're all talking about and working on. So you won't even have to touch anything. You won't even have to swipe. You'll be able to manipulate electronics, I guess you could say, with your brain. And it, reminds me of this old episode of Star Trek from the 60s, the original television show called The Gamesters of Triskelion, where the gamesters had evolved to the point where all they were was brains. They had no more bodies, just brains. And they manipulated the world through their brains. I think, so this has been a conundrum for me, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, this trend towards separation from physical, tactile reality. And for a long time I thought to myself, well, a human being can't help but be a human being, and we're perfect in our humanness. So that would mean, as we trend towards this loss of corporeal reality, our physical sense, connection with the world, that's perfectly normal and perfectly healthy, perfectly human. We're supposed to do that. This is what we are meant to do. And how can we be anything otherwise, right? How can a dog be anything but a dog? And I should accept that because that's what humans do. But then this thought came into my head. I don't know. I was out for a walk, and I remember this old fable. It called the Scorpion and the Frog. So a scorpion, and I'll tell you the fable. It's real quick. The scorpion wants to cross a river, and he can't because he's a scorpion. He'll drown. So he talks to a frog and says to the frog, "Listen, you're a frog. You can cross this river, no trouble at all. Why don't you put me on your back and carry me across the river?" And the frog said, "No way. You'll sting me. You're a scorpion." And the scorpion says, No. I need to cross the river. Come on. Let me ride on your back and cross me across the river." So the frog says, "Okay." The scorpion jumps on his back, and when they're halfway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog, and they both drown in the river. And I thought there's a beautiful wisdom in this fable. And this is where it comes down to what being human beings are, right? So it is in our nature to do what we do, and we're advancing technology. We're getting better at it, and we're separating ourselves from reality further and further. And we're heading towards controlling the world with just our brains and no corporeal bodies, and just with thought. And that is human. But maybe we're going to sting the frog. That's the thing. Maybe being human in that way is actually self-destructive. We're going to just be our own demise. Since the beginning of time, I think, what do I know about history or about what really happened? All I know is the experiences I've had in my life. But since the beginning of time, we've been connected to the earth, been connected to reality as far as we can see it, and in a very simple and straightforward way, just like everything else. People were agrarian, and we would farm, and we'd socialize and have our families and have our communities and our tribes or whatever, and we'd pay attention to the world around us and the night sky, the weather. And now, we're barreling away from that. Now we're all inside buildings that are climate controlled and looking at screens that are reality controlled, and we're less and less connected to reality. And I think this isn't. I think we're stinging. I think we're stinging ourselves. This isn't the way we're meant to be. So I say we go back to the times, maybe even before buttons and knobs. That might be a little bit Luddite, but maybe the Luddites have a really good point about living a simple life that's connected to the earth and connected to other people. And, the fanciness and the technology and all of this stuff is going to get us. So think about that. Think about how you can connect yourself to the world better. Maybe, do you have a garden? I know somebody who, I built a temporary greenhouse for somebody in my family. Like, it's this big greenhouse. It's like 10 feet by 12 feet. And easy to assemble, but not like a big project. And there was a certain sense of joy in growing vegetables inside that greenhouse this past summer and fall. And I think there's something to that. I think we, consider how you can connect back to reality and get your hands more on things, and try to think more long form. Let's think less in the short pops and bursts of that have been being fed to us, and try to think actually slower. I had an interview with a studio, a Hollywood studio, And it was a strange experience for me. This was a few years ago now, I guess 5 years ago now, maybe. And I was on a conference call with a bunch of bigwigs at a studio, and I said to him, I said, I don't think very quickly. I'm not a fast thinker. I need time to kind of digest and think about things, and I don't think they liked that at all. I think it was a lot of go, 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 push, push, push. What's next? What's next? What's the next thing? What are we gonna do? Hey, let's take this by, and I there was a definite, I don't know, what would you say? We were diametrically opposed kind of thing. It's needless to say, they were talking about doing a TV show, not a TV show. They were talking about doing some kind of a show with me as the host, and they were expecting me to just pop off all this stuff, all these ideas, and all these things, and all this stuff, and I was going, hey, and I was like, I don't really work that way. I don't think that way, and I'm not, and I didn't say it, but I'm not really impressed by that stuff. I like the long form reading and the long form thinking and the long form process. I think this is better. This rapid fire stuff is not healthy for us as human beings. So think about slowing things down, growing a garden, reading a book, trying to observe how this world is disconnecting. Things are disconnecting us, separating, putting a layer between us and reality, us and the world, and try to see through that and connect yourself better.